When we think about the American Revolution, our minds usually jump to the big names, right? George Washington, Lafayette, the famous generals. But the war wasn't just won by them. It was really won by thousands of ordinary people. And that's what we're going to dive into today, by looking at the actual military record of one of those guys, Joseph Champlin, to see how a regular citizen's journey tells the entire story of the war.
So what makes his story so special? Well, it's this number right here, 5. Between 1775 and 1780, Joseph Champlin signed up for 5 separate tours of duty. Think about that for a second. Not once, not twice, but 5 distinct times he answered the call. That is just a staggering level of commitment.
And that brings us to the huge question we're going to tackle in this explainer. What drove an ordinary guy to keep going back to the fight, again and again? His story isn't just some list of dates on a page. It's an incredible journey of evolving patriotism, from just defending his home turf to fighting for the idea of a whole new nation.
All right, so let's start at the very beginning. Champlin's first couple of enlistments weren't about some grand, glorious campaign. Nope, it was all about protecting his own backyard.
To really get why he first signed up, you have to put yourself back in 1775. The shots had just been fired at Lexington and Concord, and for people in Rhode Island, that threat felt immediate and very, very real. They had over 400 miles of coastline, which basically made them a sitting duck for the powerful British Navy. So in response, the colony created what it called an army of observation. Think of it as a massive neighborhood watch, a frontline defense force for its own shores.
So his job at the beginning was 100% local. He wasn't marching off to Boston or anything like that. He was guarding the coast, fighting off British raiding parties trying to steal supplies, and basically acting as a first responder for his own community. This was gritty, essential work, designed to keep his home and his neighbors safe.
Okay, so let's move forward in his story, because this is where things really start to escalate. The fight is about to shift, big time. It's no longer just about fending off small raids, it's about facing the enemy head-on in large-scale combat.
And check this out, because this one event shows you just how much more audacious the American forces were becoming. In November 1777, the British frigate HMS Siren runs aground. So what happens? Champlin's militia company literally hauls artillery down to the shore and starts firing, forcing the entire ship and its 136-man crew to surrender. Can you imagine the morale boost? A local militia just captured a Royal Navy warship? That is a huge deal.
But believe it or not, capturing a warship was just the warm-up. In August 1778, Champlin found himself in the middle of the Battle of Rhode Island. Now, this was a massive undertaking. We're talking about the largest battle fought in all of New England during the war, and crucially, it was the very first time American forces and their new French allies were teaming up for a major operation. The goal was simple: kick the British out of Newport for good.
And on paper, the plan looked solid. 11,000 Americans, including Champlin, cross onto the island to begin a siege. But then, disaster strikes. A monster of a storm rolls in and just batters the French fleet, which was their key advantage. The French admiral has to withdraw to Boston for repairs. Well, when thousands of the American militia see the French ship sailing away, they just desert. Suddenly, a promising siege turns into a desperate fight for survival.
With the British and their Hessian mercenaries now on the attack, the Americans had to execute a fighting retreat. And here's the incredible part. They pulled it off brilliantly. This quote says it all. They withdrew in perfect order and safety. They didn't break and run, their discipline held, and they saved the entire army. So what started as a strategic failure became this incredible testament to the resilience of the common soldier.
An experience like that, well, it changes you, and it sets the stage for the biggest step Champlin takes in his entire service. After 4 tours in the militia, he decides to go all in. He becomes a professional soldier in the Continental Army. And you have to understand, the difference between these two was like night and day. Militia service was short-term, local, and discipline could be, let's just say, irregular. The Continental Army, on the other hand, meant a long-term enlistment, fighting in national campaigns far from home, with the strict professional discipline drilled into them by Baron von Steuben. This was a whole new level of sacrifice.
And he didn't just join any old unit. He joined the 1st Rhode Island Regiment, one of the most elite and historically significant units in the entire Army. These guys were tough, disciplined veterans. And what's truly incredible for the time, they were one of America's first integrated regiments, with free and formerly enslaved African-American soldiers fighting side by side with white soldiers. Just a remarkable, groundbreaking unit. But man, life in this professional army was brutal. It meant constant drills, backbreaking labor, and severe shortages of pretty much everything. Pay, food, clothing, you name it. To voluntarily sign up for that in 1780, after 5 long years of war, required an unbelievable amount of endurance and a profound belief in the cause.
So let's just step back for a moment and look at the full picture of his service. What does this Patriot's Ledger really tell us when you add it all up?
Well, this table sums it up perfectly. Over 5 years, he served a total of 15 months, a mix of part-time militia duty and full-time Continental Army service. He was involved in key combat, from that amazing capture of a British warship to fighting in New England's largest battle. And he served in one of the Army's most groundbreaking units.
And this right here is the main takeaway. Champlin's personal journey perfectly mirrors the evolution of the American war effort itself. It started as a local, defensive squabble and transformed into a long, professional, national struggle for independence. His service record is the American Revolution in miniature.
So here's the thought I want to leave you with. Joseph Champlin wasn't a general. He wasn't a famous politician. He was a regular guy who showed up, again and again and again. What is that quiet, persistent dedication from thousands and thousands of people just like him tell us about how independence was truly won?